I'm Mangino. Welcome to the Mangino Talks podcast. We talk about everything that matters to Pittsburgh, from current events to Pittsburgh history, social issues to sports, politics to practical day-to-day life. And today, I want to talk about a story that I came across in the Tribune Review about seniors and their decision to unretire. Great piece by Joyce Hands. The title of the piece is Back to Work. Whether for financial reasons or boredom, a growing number of older adults are rejoining the workforce. And it is an interesting thing to see. I mean, we lost a lot of seniors during the beginnings of COVID. They were just terrified to go and work because of the exposures, senior population being one of the most vulnerable of all populations to go and work and engage with people. So they really backed away. Well, now they're coming back rather strong. According to a recent study of individuals 75 and over, there are about 5.3% of all of these individuals that are in the workforce as of 2000, the beginnings of 2000. Now, they're expecting by 2030, this number could rise to as high as 11.7%. Really significant numbers. I mean, you have a growing number of people who are aging, baby boomers, obviously, Gen Xers, and then you have individuals who are living longer and longer. It is commonplace to hear of individuals going to their mid-70s, ultimately into their 80s, and people living to their 90s. One person that I know in particular, his name was Victor Bianchi, fantastic basketball coach back in his day, was a teacher, and he was into his early 90s and was still working on a regular basis. Not for someone. He was always doing something, though. His sister went into a care facility, and he would go and visit her, and while he was there, he decided he wanted to weed out the garden area to make it look better. He wanted to be a part of a beautification group at the condominium complex that he lived at and was out digging holes and planting trees into his early 90s. I know this because I worked with him, and the man was out working me. It was ridiculous. And there was this fulfillment that he received, this value, this sense of self-worth because he was accomplishing something, and he loved doing physical work. You've heard me talk about Joseph D'Andrea for years now. And Joseph is another one. Now, he is more of a cerebral worker, has always been, whether it was his career in teaching or his time in promoting education with the National Education Association or with his role as honorary consul to Italy here in Pittsburgh. And to this day, and he's in his early 90s now, he is always looking for something to do, something to be productive, some level of engagement to look back at his life and say, today was worth living. And if he doesn't have something to do, he starts asking himself, what am I even doing here? Which then brings up a question about people who are significantly younger than he is, 10, 20, 30 years. Some people able to retire in their 50s. And then you have to ask, what are you going to do for the next 30, 40 years? How much golf can you play, right? What could you possibly do? How much TV do you want to watch? How much chess do you want to play? It's interesting. Martina's ex-husband loves to fish, and apparently he fishes just about every single day. He can't wait to retire to go fish every day, all day. And I'm like, come on. I mean, there are some things out there that I'm really into. But I just can't imagine the idea of doing this one thing and living purposefully for that one thing to go fish. And not like go fish to go feed people, where you think, okay, I'm going to go out there and throw my net in the water, and then I'm going to bring all these fish in and feed, hundreds of people. No, throw the rod out there, fish, get the fish, and then release it again. But there are clearly people, obviously, he's looking forward to this, that are looking forward to that. Playing golf, 3-4 times a week. And what else is there? I don't know, just more golf. More whatever. Just relax. But in this piece with Joyce Hans, what I thought was really interesting were the individuals that are really making a difference, that have decided that, no, they are not going to just be. Now, some of them have motivations that ultimately were different than others. Some people, boredom. Other people saying, no, I got to get back to doing something, and I need to make a couple of extra bucks. Let me give you some examples. She talks about Michael Trenga from Leechburg. And one of the things that he was quoted as saying was, sometimes I feel cheated because I have friends that are retired and not working. And I wonder how many people feel that way that do work. That somehow the people who aren't doing anything at all are in a better place. And I'm not convinced that doing nothing is really about being in a better place. I really don't. I'll give you more details about that coming up as we move further along. He also speaks about how he worked as a counselor. He holds a doctorate in ministry from Andersonville Theological Seminary in Georgia. And he worked in hospice. And he got to the point to where he just knew he couldn't do the hospice thing anymore. His daughter, he was with her when she passed in a hospice, and that was the end. So what did he do? Decided to go and drive a school bus, of all things, and has found great fulfillment in driving the school bus, saying that it's about as far away from suffering and death as a person can get. He's hanging out with kids in the morning, in the afternoon, and having a great time. He also says, by the way, for those of you who are seniors or close to being, you're wondering, what are you going to do in the next chapter? The majority of our drivers are retired senior citizens doing this to supplement their income. Not a bad thing, right? Just a couple of extra bucks to have some play money. And then there's Lana Planitzer. She worked the 4 a.m. shift making donuts at the Giant Eagle Bakery in New Kensington for 13 years. Prior to that, she was a librarian. After making the donuts for 13 years, she couldn't keep on doing that because of some health issues. She got better, and one day she's taking a Tai Chi class, and the next thing you know, she's back to work again. Right? She's working in food service and having a blast, making lunches 5 days a week. She's quoted as saying, I think even if you don't have to work, it's a good idea. I need a reason to get up every day. She's right about that too. Something to motivate you, to keep you going, to give you a reason to get up and dressed and be active that day. And then you have people like Landa Fullers, Lower Borough. Grew up in New Kensington, worked in the corporate world. She's back at it again too. She's 73 years old. 73 years corporate. And now she's working for her church. And then finally, Judy Washburn. She's from Delmont. She's 75. Had a career in teaching, left that, and then went and did the typical retirement thing that people envision that everybody does, right? International cruises and having a wonderful time. Cleaned up the house again and again and again. And then she decided, since she's always loved everything about the French, she thought, maybe I can go teach this. And so she said, I polished up my resume, said a prayer, and went in for the interview. She got the job at St. Vincent College and now teaches elementary, intermediate, and advanced French courses 3 days a week on campus. And she said, I discovered I wanted to be a French teacher when I was 16 years old. This is a continuation of my teaching that I just love. And you think about this opportunity too for people who are retired. And now it's not about working because you are working this career. You can actually go back and do something that is a childhood dream. For people who would grow up wanting to be associated with the arts. And then you decide, you know what, I'm going to go and work for the CLO. Or you grew up as a kid loving sports. And the next thing you know, you're working for the Pirates, the Steelers, or the Penguins in some capacity. You're fulfilling a dream of being in those industries. I think that's a great idea. Absolutely wonderful idea. There are a couple of people that are quoted in this story as well, and some really, really important things that ultimately come out in what they say. Ed Claypool, he himself, 64, employee at the East Vandergrift Center for Active Adults, and he's been doing this work for a number of years now. He says they're back to work because they need the income. I tell them about the senior employment program, and that's something that can meet their needs. If you're a senior, if you know somebody who's a senior, and they're looking at the idea of getting back into the workforce, doing something, make some extra money, help themselves out, not only financially, maybe emotionally, physically too. The Senior Community Service Employment Program, it's available to seniors in Allegheny, Westmoreland, and Washington counties. It's for those who are 55 and over, and especially for those that are low income. There's also Amy Halter, interesting woman. She's a counselor, and she sees the psychological benefits of going to work. She says there have been studies that found working to an older age has a positive impact on mental health, and I believe that. And my friend Joseph D'Andrea is a perfect example of that. She also says that people have high expectations of what retirement will look like. I wonder how many of those expectations are unrealistic expectations. That you're going to stop working and you're going to get out of the grind, if you will. And you envision retirement being this wonderful time of life of nothing but back porches and swings and doing what you want to when you want to and going on trips and traveling and all of this. And the dreams are really just dreams. Those expectations, so unrealistic. She also says you can only clean so much, organize so much, and then it's, now what? Right? What else are you going to do? I know people who are retired that are just spending their life sitting someplace. In the living room, in the dining room, in the kitchen, on the patio, and it's just the next place to go sit down. Is that what you worked all your life for? To just find some place to sit down? She also says that working also helps stave off loneliness and boredom, which can lead to depression. Makes all the sense in the world. If you're by yourself all of the time and you're not able to engage with people productively, what does it do to your thinking? And we don't have to imagine it. It's all around us. With COVID and its impacts and how it confined people and limited people's ability to interact with others, we are living with the after effects to this very day. Children that are impacted negatively by this, adults of varying ages, and clearly seniors too, that have not been able to live the most fulfilling lives for the past couple of years. You got to get out and do. Engage. Right? And she says it's giving them financial independence and helps with their physical and mental health. Absolutely. You get a couple of extra bucks. You want to be able to do well by your grandkids and your great-grandkids. All of a sudden, the dollars are available to do that. You want to be able to go and have fun and enjoy yourself and maybe take a trip once or twice a year or weekend getaways with your friends and family. You can do that. And what does it do for you psychologically to be able to do that, right? Not only the finances, but also the psychological impact. Clearly a benefit for people on the mental health side of things, right? So the unretirement, growing number of people are going to be doing it. The big question is, why will they be doing it? Will we see a near doubling of the number of people who are in the workforce in just a few more years because they have to or because they want to? Will they feel obligated, or there'll be some aspect of personal fulfillment? Some people look at their work like my dad taught me to look at mine. I remember when I was a young man and I was concerned about being able to provide. And he said, do what you're passionate about. You'll never count the hours. It won't feel like work, and the money will come. And there are individuals that have work that they just love so much, they work it all the way till the end. It's fulfilling. It doesn't seem like work to them. And then there are others that go through work, through their work productive lives, and they know they don't want to do that anymore. And so the thought becomes, okay, I've got to retire. I've got to get out. But the real fulfillment doesn't come from leaving what you thought was burdensome to do nothing. Now you're at the stage in life where you can leave what is a hardship, what would be unpleasant to say the least. I remember one job that I had before I got into radio and experienced the passion of being a talk show host. I worked as a manager of a convenience store. And the company is a good enough company. It wasn't the company. It wasn't the people that I worked for. I just didn't like the work. So much so that even on Fridays, I couldn't enjoy the weekends because all I could think about was, I got to go back to work on Monday. How many of you have experienced something like this, where it's Saturday morning and you're thinking about what you're going to do for the day, but in the back of your mind, you realize in less than 48 hours, I'm going to be back to work. And then you're in the middle of the day, and then you think, 42 more hours, I'm back to work. That's how my life was. And then I found the passion in radio, and I don't know that I've worked a day since. And if you ask my daughter, she'll tell you that I don't work. Because she sees work as, if you do something physical, then you're working, right? How many times she's told me, well, Dad, you just talk for a living. I wish I could make a living talking. I don't know, maybe you can someday. Maybe you can. But if you're looking at the retirement age and those years as being times where you do nothing, how about re-exploring the idea of doing something that you really can find fulfillment and enjoyment in and purpose? And I love what Michael Trenga is doing as a bus driver, because he's making an impact on kids. And one of the things that we know today is that the kids need us. They need us now more than ever before. And if you can have people who have the right disposition, that see what they're doing as helping to build and lay the foundation for the next generation, that's great stuff right there. It truly is. Great piece, once again, in the Trib. Back to work, whether for financial reasons or for boredom, a growing number of older adults are rejoining the workforce. Thank you for listening to the Mangino Talks podcast. New episodes drop Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. For more on me and the show, be sure to visit ManginoTalks.com. Follow me on your favorite social media platform by using @ManginoTalks, or you can just Google Mangino Talks. Once you find me, please like, follow, subscribe, and share the pages with your friends and family. And thanks again for listening to the Mangino Talks podcast.